Good morning, guys. Hello. Good morning.
Morning, ma'am.
Finding very low attendance. Very low attendance. Still not wake up? Huh? You should wake your friends, na? Anyways, another couple of days. After that, you'll be meeting face to face. Okay? So we'll continue the study of central nervous system. In the previous class, I was talking to you about spinal cord. In the cross section of spinal cord, I told you that it has been divided into two components like central gray matter and peripheral white matter. Okay, so this central butterfly shaped gray matter is composed of mainly cell bodies. Okay, whereas this white matter consists of the nerve fibers or the axons of the cell bodies present in this gray matter. So those axons are the myelinated or non-myelinated nerve fibers. When you see here, they are arranged in different groups. You can see various colors, shapes here. They are nothing but the bundle of various nerve fibers. Okay, so they will travel throughout the spinal cord, enter the brainstem and reach different parts of the sensory cortex or come from the motor cortex or different other parts of the associated area of the brain. So we are going to study what are these bundles of fibers. Okay, what is their role, how they ascend or descend in the spinal cord. Those we consider them as okay. So those nerve fiber grouped together in a bundle form, they are called as tracts. Today we are going to talk about the tracts. So you can see various fibers from the periphery of the body coming to the spinal cord, and from the brain they are again going through the spinal cord to various parts of the body. So what are these nerve fiber bundles are called as tracts. How we define? Bundle of fibers carrying one or a group of motor or sensory impulses in the central nervous system. These tracts are nothing but bundle of fibers carrying one or group of motor or sensory impulses in central nervous system. So you should know the definition of tract. Then we are going to see the types of tracts. Okay, types of tracts includes, see, there are various fibers which are carrying information from different parts of body towards the brain. Those are called as ascending tracts. Those are classified as ascending tracts, whereas information from the brain coming back towards the spinal cord and then going to different parts of the body, those type of tracts, those type of nerve bundles carrying the information from brain to the periphery, they are called as descending tracts. So we have two types of tracts, ascending tracts and descending tracts. So these fibers, ascending tracts, will carry various information, especially the sensations, general sensation, special sensation from different parts of the body towards the brain. That information is processed here in the brain, and brain will guide to take appropriate action, and that information will be sent from the brain to particular organ system or the muscle or the gland. Okay, so as these ascending tracts are going upwards. They are also called as afferent tracts or sensory tracts. They carry sensory information, so they are called as sensory tracts. Whereas these descending tracts are coming down, so they are efferent or they carry the motor information. Motor information in the sense whatever action need to be taken, movement occurs, some form of movement occurs when the information comes to the effector organ. So they are called as descending tract. So we have ascending and descending tracts or sensory or motor tracts or afferent or efferent tracts. All means same. But most commonly these terminologies are used, ascending and descending tract. Right? Next. So these ascending and descending tracts, there are various tracts, various pathways carrying different sensation, various motor tracts carrying the information to different parts of the body to carry different movements and all. So depending on the place from where to where it goes, the nomination has been done for this. When the term begin with the spino, then it is always a sensory tract. For example, as I have written here, spinocerebellar, the information goes upwards from spine to cerebellum. So whenever the name of the tract begins with the spino, then it is almost always is a sensory tract. Whereas when it ends with the spinal, that is always motor tract. Say for example, vestibulospinal. It coming from vestibular apparatus to the spine. So it is always descending tract, so it is always a motor tract. Is this terminology clear? Yes? Any doubt in this? Am I clear? Anybody have any doubt? You can ask. We'll proceed ahead. Okay. So today in the, class, I am going to talk about the ascending tract in detail. Okay. So as I said, ascending tracts are always carrying the sensory information towards the brain. So say for example in the peripheral part, say on your palm or forearm, some injury happens. This is carried by the peripheral nerve to the spinal cord, where it ends, and group of fibers which are carrying the same sensation form a bundle. From there it ascends upwards to the brain. This is how is the organization of the ascending tracts. So this information from the periphery or the receptors here, whichever receptors, pain receptors or thermal receptors, whatever it is, it sends the information to the peripheral nerve to the spinal cord. There it forms a bundle and ascends up through the brain stem to the different parts of the cerebral cortex. This is how the organization. We split it into different portions. This is divided into different portions, like they are organized in different neural chains. Okay, whatever tract we are talking about, they are organized in different chains of neurons. Okay, so first is, it is from the sensation begins with the sensation in the receptor. They will perceive the change in their environment. Whatever stimulus is given, sensed by the receptor, then it travels to the dorsal ganglia. Okay, it starts from the receptor and travel in the peripheral nerve. So this information will be traveled in the peripheral nerve and goes into the dorsal root of the spinal cord. So this is first order neuron. This goes and then it synapses with the neuron in the second. This ends on the second order neuron, okay, which is located in the spinal cord, and this transmits the impulse to the thalamus. Okay, so this is situated in the posterior. The cell body of the second order neuron is situated in the posterior gray horn. Okay, axon of this will immediately cross to the opposite side in front of the central canal. So the crossing of the second order neuron is a rule. It crosses the midline in front of the central canal and again it ascends up and terminate in the thalamus. Okay, from there the third order neuron begins. This is the end of the blue line, whatever you are seeing is end of the second order neuron, which synapses with the neuron cell body of particular nuclei in the thalamus. Whichever tract ends in, every tract ends in different nucleus of the thalamus. So from there, the third order neuron starts and the axon of which ascends and ends in the cerebral cortex. And this is called as third order neuron. So first order neuron, second order neuron and third order neuron. This is the organization of any tract, sensory tract. Okay. So this all together I will show you how it is arranged. So first order neuron, it begins from the stimulus, any stimulus that is sensed by the receptors and carries through the afferent and goes to the spinal cord. This is mainly carried through the peripheral nerve. And then second order neuron, it is from the spinal cord to the thalamus. Again, it is happening in the central nervous system. Then third order neuron from thalamus to the cerebral cortex. Okay, this is simple schematic organization of the sensory tract or ascending tract. Okay, when we are discussing any particular tract, we are going to see the three-dimensional diagrams, but you have to simplify and diagrammatically draw it and understand. So this is a simplified organization of the sensory tract. So sometimes, in some cases, not all the cases, there will be further information from the cerebral cortex where the third order neuron ends. From there, it goes to some association areas in the cerebral cortex, which is called as fourth order neuron or higher order neuron. For some further information or appropriate action to be taken, for that, the cerebral cortex sends the information to some other association areas. Say, for example, if you are seeing some object, you are seeing the object. If you want to exactly tell what is the shape of the that object or color of that object, that information is processed by some other area in the brain. So, for that purpose, the higher order neuron has to be there. It is present in some specific information or tracts, not in all the tracts. Okay, so this is about organization of the sensory. Ultimately, the actual tract diagrammatically looks like this. So this is a receptor, afferent nerve fiber coming to the spinal cord. From here it is crossing the midline, then ascending up, second order neuron going and ending in the thalamus. From there, the information, third order neuron goes and carries the information to cerebral cortex. So this you should fix up in your mind always. This is very, very essential to understand any tract. Okay. So is this concept clear? Any doubt in this organization chain? Any doubt in this particular aspect? Is it clear? Next, we'll move on to discuss about proper tracts. Now, how these ascending tracts are classified? Ascending tracts, as I said, they are always spinal to some other higher center. So all the informations will be going from spine. So they always begin with the spino. And next term will be depending on where it ends. Okay, it can end in cerebral cortex, it can end in brainstem, or it can end in cerebellum. So depending on the site where it ends, arising in the spinal cord, ending in the different higher centers. So they are classified as dorsal column pathway or dorsal column tract or posterior column tract, which goes from spine to the cerebral cortex. Okay. Next, tract which goes from spine to the brainstem. They are called as spinothalamic tracts. They are called as spinothalamic tract. Based on their location, they are termed as, the prefix used, anterior and lateral. Okay, so those we are going to discuss in detail. And then from spine to cerebellum, so it is called as spinocerebellar tract. It is called as spinocerebellar tract. So this is how the classification of ascending tracts is being done, based on from spine to where it ends. It's very easy to remember. There are three components: from spine to cerebral cortex, spine to brainstem, and spine to cerebellum. In this, we have dorsal column tract or posterior column tract, anterior spinothalamic tract. As I said, when it begins with a spino, it is always ascending or sensory tract. So it is spinocerebellar, spinothalamic. These are going from spine to thalamus, spine to cerebellum. Okay. So we saw the white matter of the spinal cord transection. So cross section. In this, the location of all these tracts is shown. So these two, fasciculus gracialis and cuneatus, are nothing but the dorsal column tract or posterior column tract. That, as you can see, they are placed or located in the posterior column. So they are called as posterior column or dorsal column tracts. There are two types in that: fasciculus gracialis and fasciculus cuneatus. These are called as. Okay, so medial one and lateral one. Medial one is called as gracialis, lateral one is called as cuneatus. Whereas the spinocerebellar tract, this is a spinocerebellar tract. Again, depending on its location, whether it is in anterior or posterior side, they are called as dorsal spinocerebellar tract, and this component is called as ventral or anterior spinocerebellar tract. And this is spinothalamic, which has got two components: anterior part and this part is lateral part. So anterior spinothalamic and lateral spinothalamic. This is how the nerve fibers are bundled together and organized in the form of tract in the white matter of the spine. Okay. So same way motor fibers are also arranged, that we'll discuss in later classes. Okay. So when we are talking about any tract, you will have to describe it in simplified ways. Today, for description purpose, I am using little 3D diagrams. But when you are drawing in examination or you are practicing or discussing about the tract, it should be a very simplified way like this. So whichever tract you are describing, it should be discussed under following headings. First, you have to tell about its origin. So here, one of the tract, sensory tract I have taken, it is originating here in the C fiber. Then location, where it is located. As I told you in the last slide, the tract is located in different parts of the white matter. So that has to be said. Then course, how it travels. So this is the course. Okay. Then terminates, where it ends. First in the thalamus, then ultimately in the somatosensory cortex. Okay, this is the termination. Then I have to talk about its function, what function it subserves. If this is a spinothalamic tract, which sensory information it sends to the brain. That you have to discuss, and ultimately you have the applied aspect, that is any injury to this particular tract, what happens to the person. Okay, these are the headings under which each tract have to be discussed. So let us see one by one. So first we will discuss about the dorsal column pathway, which is also called as posterior column pathway. Okay, as I said, this pathway goes from the spinal cord to the cerebral cortex. This goes from spinal cord to cerebral cortex, and the other name for this is medial lemniscal system. Because of its arrangement, when it ascends during the course of this tract, it forms what is called as lemniscal system. As it is located medially in the white matter, so it is called as medial lemniscal system. I am going to show you the diagram of this tract. And most commonly this tract is termed as tract of Gall and Burdach. It is called as tract of Gall and Burdach. So now whoever is attending the class, a small homework for you all. Are you listening? You got to find out why this tract is called as tract of Gall and Burdach. I am telling so many names for this. This is dorsal column pathway because it is located in the dorsal part of the white matter, a posterior part of the white matter. And as there is arrangement as a lemniscal system and medially arranged, it is called as medial lemniscal system. I explained these two terms. Now you got to find out why it is called as tract of Gall and Burdach. Clear? Will you find out? Yes? Anybody there?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, what you will find? Arpita? You are going to find out why the tract is called tract of Gall and Burdach. Okay? That is a homework. So in Monday's class, you are going to tell me. I'll be taking Monday. We'll be face to face. Then you are going to tell me why it is called tract of Gall and Burdach. Okay? Next. So these are some of the sensory tracts where they are located in the spinal cord, white matter, and what sensation they carry. This figure depicts what sensation they carry. These are the tract of Gall and Burdach. Medial one is fasciculus gracilis and the lateral one is fasciculus cuneatus. So these will carry the sensation from different parts of the body. Which part they carry also is written here. So medial part is mainly the lower part of the body, whereas the lateral one carries the information from the upper part of the body. This knowledge is essential because whenever any injury to the spinal cord occurs, depending on the site and whether it is complete cut or partial spinal section, depending on that, you are going to assess what kind of functional loss the person has, or based on the signs and symptoms, what kind of loss he has and which part of the body he has, you can assess where the lesion is. So for that information, for that knowledge, it is very essential to understand where they are located and what information from which part of the body they carry. This is all about the tract. You are going to see which fiber carry which sensation. Say for example, I was talking about tract of Gall and Burdach or dorsal column tract. This carries information about the touch, pressure, vibration, sensation. So if these fibers are cut in the spinal cord injury, then the person will not feel the touch, will not feel the pressure. Depending on whether medial fibers are affected or lateral fibers are affected. If medial fibers are affected, then in the lower part of the body, the person will not feel the touch and pressure. Am I making it clear? Are you able to understand this? Yes? Are you understanding the purpose of studying these tracks? See, any person comes with a road traffic accident, and he has the spinal injury. Based on what kind of loss he has, sometimes the person may not be able to move. Person may not have a pain sensation or touch sensation. In such situations, you will have to find out what track is involved, what is the extent of spinal cord injury. So that is the purpose we have to understand. So after finishing this ascending and descending track, we are going to discuss about the spinal cord injury, where in detail again we are going to discuss what kind of loss a person will have when there is a different types of spinal cord injuries. Okay, so these are the spinothalamic tracts, and this is anterior, this is the lateral spinothalamic tract. This is how the arrangement, and you can understand where they are. Now coming to the tract of Gall and Berdach or dorsal column tract. So for explanation purpose, I have taken these 3D diagrams. So what you can see here is, you have to explain from where it begins and how it ascends up about the first order neuron, second order neuron and third order neuron. So origin, its course, its termination and its function are to be discussed. Okay. So first we are going to see the dorsal column tract. This is tract of Gall and Berdach. Okay. So fibers comes from first order neuron, begins in the receptors of touch, vibration, pressure and other sensation. That goes into that enters the spinal cord. Okay, these axons are located in the dorsal root ganglion here. The axons are located. From here, the fibers ascends in the posterior part, that is posterior column, posterior funiculus of the spinal cord. Okay, you can see two are here bundled together, the funiculus cutaneous and funiculus, fasciculus gracilis. Fasciculus gracilis is more medial and cuneatus is lateral, lies lateral. Okay, so these fibers ascend through the spinal cord, okay, and then terminate and they reach the medulla. Okay, they reach the medulla. Here they are in midbrain. So brain stem. In the medulla oblongata, they terminate on the nuclei called as nucleus gracilis and nucleus cuneatus. So these are the nuclei termed as nucleus gracilis and nucleus cuneatus in the medulla oblongata. That is why the fibers names are named as fasciculus cuneatus and fasciculus gracilis. Okay, these will end in respective nuclei in the medulla oblongata. From there immediately the axons from these nuclei, the neurons will cross to the opposite side, and then they ascend up as a medial lemniscal system. The fibers are arranged in such a way that they are bundled together and they are termed as medial lemniscus. That is why this tract is also called as medial lemniscal system. Is that clear? This is called as medial lemniscal system. It ascends up and second order neuron goes and ends in the thalamus. In the thalamus, it ends in ventral posterolateral nucleus. It ends on ventral posterolateral nucleus. This white structure, whatever you are seeing, is ventral posterolateral nucleus. From here, the axons from here arise and they ascend up and go and terminate in reach the cerebral cortex, passing through the internal capsule and corona radiata, and then they end in somatosensory area of the cerebral cortex. They end in the somatosensory area of the cerebral cortex. Okay. Now the information from the receptor goes in the first order neuron and in the nucleus gracilis and cuneatus in medulla oblongata. From there, second order neuron cross immediately to the opposite side, and then they ascend up and end as a medial lemniscus system and end in the ventral posterior lateral nucleus of the thalamus. From there, third order neuron goes to the somatosensory area of cerebral cortex. This is the origin, course and termination of the dorsal column tract. Is this clear? Any doubt in this? Anybody has any doubt in this? I'm simplifying it very much so that everybody could understand. Still, if you have any doubts, you can ask. Anyone? Have you understood? Unmute and answer. Yes. Hoping that you all have understood, I'll proceed ahead. So it ends, termination we understood. After that, we have to discuss the function of this particular tract. So what are the functions of this tract, dorsal column tract or tract of Gall and Berdach or medial lemniscal system? You have to fix up these terminologies in mind. In any form it is asked, you have to answer whether it is dorsal column pathway, dorsal column tract, posterior column tract, medial lemniscus system, tract of Gall and Berdach. All means same. All means same. You have to try to understand what is it, where is it located, what functions it is subserving, then you will be able to describe what this is. And it is very commonly asked during your examination. So you should practice drawing this diagram and explain its origin, location, course, termination, functions and applied aspects. Clear? We are going to talk about its function. What functions it subserves? As it is sensory tract, what sensory, especially general sensation, these tracts, whatever we are discussing, will carry the general sensation definitely. So this tract is going to carry some forms of sensations which are general sensations, and it carries some forms of touch sensations. Most of the forms of touch sensation, I mean, there can be a fine touch. Okay. There is a crude touch which is not carried by this tract, it is carried by some other tract. Then the sustained pressure is nothing but the sustained touch. For longer time if you press and hold, that is pressure sensation. Then tactile localization. Tactile is touch sensation. Localization means the ability to localize exactly the part of the skin which is touched. You can just close your eyes. If somebody touches some part of your body, you should be in a position to identify that which part of the body is touched. That is called as tactile localization. Where the touch is felt, that you should locate. If somebody touches you when you are closing your eyes, if they touches you, you should sense that somebody touched you here. So that is localization. These tests we are going to conduct in the clinical examination. So that is carried by the dorsal column tract. Next touch sensation is tactile discrimination. Tactile discrimination is nothing but it is ability to recognize as a separate 2 points on the skin when they are simultaneously touched. Say for example, using my 2 fingers, I am touching here. Okay, so if I touch with such a distance, you should be able to feel that 2 points, 2 areas are being touched simultaneously. So this we are testing using a compass with a different distance between the two limbs of the compass. So how much distance you will be able to feel it as two different points. Okay, that is tactile discrimination. The next sensation is stereognosis. What do you mean by stereognosis? It is the ability to recognize some known object while you are closing your eyes. Say for example, you know this is a pen. Okay, so when you know that this is a pen, you have handled various types of pens, but still when I ask you to close your eyes and hand it over to you and ask you to recognize, definitely you are going to tell that this is a pen. Okay, if I give you similar object of similar length and similar width, something else or some stick or something, then also you will be able to make it whether it is pen or what. If I give you a mobile, you will identify. How you are identifying? By your touch sensation with your previous experience. With your open eye, you have seen it, how it looks. Based on its texture, its size, its shape, you are going to recognize known object while closing your eyes. That process is called as stereognosis. Is that clear? So these are some forms of touch which are being carried by this dorsal column tract. Apart from touch, it also carries vibration sense. It also carries vibration sense. Just a minute. Okay. Vibration sense, it is sense that is felt by the deeper structure, the changes occurring on the skin, changes happening in the surrounding of the skin that are sensed in the deep organs. That is vibration sense. Next sensation is proprioception. Proprioception is nothing but the unconscious kinesthetic sensation, that is sense of position of the different parts of the body, either in motion or in static position. Okay, so now what is it? Like now I am keeping my hand like this. Even if I close my eyes, I should be able to tell that in which position my hand is, either by showing with the other hand. If my hand is like this, I should show in what position this hand is by doing like this. When the motion happens or when in static position, if you are able to sense the position of the body part, that is called as proprioception. And this tract carries conscious proprioception. This carries conscious proprioception. That means there is also unconscious kinesthetic sensation, which is carried by some other tract. Is this clear? So the functions of dorsal column tract or tract of Gall and Berdach include different forms of touch, excluding the crude touch, all other touch sensations, vibration and proprioception. Clear? Next is what happens if there is destruction of this tract. If this tract is being cut, either during some road traffic accident or stab injury or bullet gunshot injury, what happens? So whatever functions we discussed about now are all lost. There is loss of joint sensation or position sense, what I told, proprioception is lost, vibration sense is lost. The person cannot discriminate, two-point discrimination cannot be done, tactile discrimination cannot be done. Okay, so these all will happen on the same side below the lesion. Say for example, here is the location of the lesion. So same side of the lesion and below the lesion, all these sensations will be lost. Is it clear? Any doubt in this? So if why not opposite side sensations are not affected? This is because the tract second order neurons are crossing to the opposite side. Okay, so neurons, second order neurons carrying the sensation of right side will cross over to the opposite side. If the lesion occurs, complete transection occurs, then there are chances of loss of sensation on opposite side also. Okay, so this is why I was telling you to identify the location codes of the tract to understand this. Okay, so if the person complains that there is no sensation in this particular portion, that means there is hemisection, half part of the spinal cord is injured, not completely. Okay, so this is how you have to tell about the applied aspect of each spinal tract. Is this clear? If it is okay, I'll move on to the next tract. That is the tracts which are originating in spinal cord and terminating in different parts of brain stem. Especially these will end in thalamus. So they are termed as spinothalamic tract. There are two different tracts. One is anterior, one is lateral. Again, this is because of their location. The bundle or the group of fibers which are located in the anterior part of the spinal white matter and lateral part of the spinal white matter. So they are called as anterior spinothalamic tract and lateral spinothalamic tract. As these two combinedly ascend together, their course is similar. So they two together are termed as anterolateral system. So previous one what we discussed was called as medial lemniscal system and these are called as anterolateral system. When the question is asked anterolateral system, it is understood that you got to explain both the tracts. The origin might be little different, but the course termination is the same for these two tracts. And let us see how they are arranged. First, we'll describe a anterior spinothalamic tract. From spine to thalamus, they ascend. From there, the third order neuron definitely goes to the cerebral tract, but their course is from the spinal cord to thalamus. So what happens here? This is mainly responsible for crude touch. I was talking to you about the different forms of touch. Except for crude touch, all other forms of touch are carried by the dorsal column tract, whereas crude touch plus pressure sensation is carried by this anterior spinothalamic tract, and respective receptors gather the information and send it, this first order neuron, through the peripheral nerve and comes here in the spinal cord. Okay, and this will synapse with the neurons in the second laminae, that is substantia gelatinosa rolando, which we saw in the discussion of Gray horn. So that is the second rex lamina. Then from there it ascends up and it goes to the thalamus. The second order neuron goes to the thalamus and relay there. So you can see the first order neuron, red, it is so the red color, the white color reflects the second order neuron, and this black is third order. Likewise, the lateral spinothalamic tract also. So this is mainly concerned with pain and temperature sensation. lateral spinothalamic tract is mainly concerned with pain and temperature sensation. This is very important tract because pain is a very important component when it comes to the diseases, whether it is surgical or medical case or obstetric case, any form of cases you get, the main concern of the any diseased person will be the pain. This pain we are going to discuss elaborately in the next class, and the tract which is carrying this pain sensation will be discussed today, and that tract is lateral spinothalamic tract. That tract is lateral spinothalamic tract. First order neuron, it begins with the receptors here in the periphery, the pain and temperature receptors. Those will carried through the afferent fibers and come here to the spine, and then in the dorsal horn, immediately they will cross to the opposite side. Second order neuron cross to the opposite side, and they ascend up through the brain stem, and then they go into the thalamus. Again, it ends in the ventral posterolateral nucleus of the thalamus. From there, third order neuron project to the cerebral cortex, somatosensory area 312. There it is projected. From there, the process occurs and required information comes to the descending tracts to the respective organs. So, as the course of these two systems is similar, if you see the previous diagram, so almost similar. They travel together, only the origin varies because they are concerned with the different sensations. Anterior thalamic tract is concerned with the coarse touch and pressure, whereas lateral spinothalamic tract is concerned with the pain and temperature. So, excepting for the origin, rest of the course that is same. So, they are considered as anterolateral tracts or system. Okay. So, once this goes into the brain cortex, here you can see the parts of the body. What it depicts is which part of the body is reflected in which area of, or how much of body part is represented in this cerebral cortex. I think you have heard homunculus. This is called sensory homunculus. There is also a motor homunculus. So which part of representation of different parts of the body is in the brain, how much area it occupies. Depending on that, how much of sensation is there. Okay, so if you see the palm, its size is quite bigger than the trunk. If you see the face, especially lips, it has got bigger representation than the rest of the parts. So likewise, this is called as homunculus. If possible, in the next class, I am going to discuss about these aspects. So, depending on the area of representation, the sensations are felt. Say for example, the touch sensation is least in the back because touch receptors are less and their representation in the cortex is also less. Whereas if you see the fingers, the sensation is quite high and its representation is also high in the cerebral cortex, and the touch receptors are densely arranged in the in the skin of the palm. So likewise in the lips also the sensation is quite high, touch sensation. So this we have to separately discuss about. Plus, if possible, in the next class I will be talking about it. Okay, is this clear? Moving on to the next. If the lesion to the lateral spinothalamic tract occurs, what happens? The lesion is here, the blue line, whatever you are seeing. So what has happened? As it is carrying pain and thermal sensation, it is on the opposite side those sensations are lost because they are, as soon as the information enters the spinal cord, the second order neuron cross immediately in that level of spinal cord only. So the opposite side pain and thermal sensations are lost. Even if you prick with a pin, the patient may not feel it. Even if we put something hot on the skin, he may not sense it or she may not sense it. So this is what happens if this part of the spinal cord is affected. Okay. Next, moving on to the tracts which are ending in the brain stem, they are termed as spino-reticular tract. They are termed as spino-reticular tract, which is arising in the spinal column and going into the reticular system. Okay, that is going into the reticular system, which is concerned with level of consciousness. It is concerned with level of consciousness. The next one is spinotectal tract. That is sending the information to superior colliculus in the brainstem, and it is associated with spino-visual reflexes. Next one is spino-olivary tract. So this is mainly involved in unconscious proprioceptive information. I was talking about conscious proprioception, which is carried by dorsal column tract, whereas the spino-olivary tract, it goes to spine to olivary nucleus in the brainstem. It is concerned with the unconscious proprioception. Okay, and finally we have spinocerebellar tract, which are again of two types, ventral and dorsal based on their location. Ventral is also anterior, dorsal is also posterior, spinocerebellar tract. Okay, their course is something like this. They transmit unconscious proprioception information to the cerebellum. Okay, and they receive inputs from the muscle spindle and pressure receptors. They receive the information from muscle spindle and pressure receptors, and they involve coordination of the posture, movement of the individual muscle of lower limb. The main job of this tract is to help in the posture, because they are getting the information from the muscle spindles and the pressure receptors. They will help in carrying the information to the cerebellum, which in turn sends back the motor information, helping in correcting the posture and maintaining the posture. Okay, this is about the spinocerebellar tract. In detail, you want to study their origin, course, termination and functions. And lesion, what happens if it is cut or injured. Finally, to summarize, we classified the tract as dorsal column tract, then anterolateral column tract and spinocerebellar tract. Okay, and their functions: lateral spinothalamic tract involved in pain and thermal sensation, anterior spinothalamic crude touch and pressure sensation, whereas dorsal column tract is concerned with fine touch, tactile discrimination, tactile localization, vibration and proprioception, whereas the anterior spinothalamic is involved in the unconscious proprioception plus gross movement, whereas posterior spinocerebellar tract is involved in the unconscious proprioception plus fine movements. So this is how different sensations, somatic sensations or general sensations are carried from periphery to the center. So this is all about the ascending tracts. Very, very important. You must understand and remember our dorsal column tract and anterolateral column tract. These are very commonly asked, and in clinical examination you are going to test all these. how they are perceived, and when they are lost. Okay? So any doubt in this, you can mark it, you can ask it now, I'll give you time, 2 minutes, or in the next class you can ask. So this completes the discussion about the ascending tracks. In the next class we are going to study about some more aspects of these applied aspect we can talk, especially about the pain in detail I am going to discuss, because there are so many aspects you have to understand, because nowadays if you see so many institutions or hospitals have what pain clinic itself. So how important it is to manage the pain, whether it is post-operative, pre-operative, or pain due to any kind of abdominal or thoracic or any kind of pain, it is very difficult to manage. So the pain management system itself is very much advanced. So we will understand physiology of pain at this level. Okay, we'll not discuss about all these sensations. We'll discuss mainly about the pain sensation in the next class. Till then, you all study well, read about these all the tracks. Any doubts you have, you can come up with the questions in the next class. Mostly, I'll meet you all physically in classroom on Monday. Okay? Any doubts in this? Note down and ask the questions in the next class. Have a good day. Stay safe. Bye.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, ma'am.
Welcome. Study well, all of you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, Chetan.